This week, the cyborgs are coming, the eyeborgs are watching, the bar staff are serving, and Lara photographs a banana. This is Adam Jensen, star of the video game Deus Ex: Human Revolution. Set in 2027, the poor chap has to undergo extensive cybernetic modifications after being severely injured. Well, just 10 years before those events might occur, that plotline doesn't seem that far off. For years now, people have been body hacking, giving themselves extra abilities. And as our understanding of robotics has advanced, so has our creativity. Meet Rob Spence. Like the cyborg in the video game, he too has a bionic eye. It doesn't have Terminator vision like this, yet, but it does record video.
Inside a prosthetic eye, which is an odd shape, they're not a sphere, a prosthetic eye, they're actually like a very thick contact lens. And inside that is a battery, a video camera, and a video transmitter, all attached to a circuit board so they can talk to one another.
The camera is turned on and off with a magnet.
It doesn't look at all comfortable. Is it in any way comfortable?
Yeah, it's fine. I know it looks uncomfortable. Well, the first iteration that looks the most uncomfortable, it looks like a 90s iMac. You can see all the goods inside, like the battery and the wires, but that's covered by smooth plastic that, you know, so it's not like, I don't have like open wires and batteries, you know.
That kind of made my stomach drop a little bit when I saw that.
Rob damaged his eye when he was 9 and in 2009 began exploring the idea of a bionic eye. As a filmmaker himself, he was fascinated with the idea that his eye could become a camera.
It's like an absurd toy for a one-eyed filmmaker. I used to watch The Bionic Man when I was a kid, the $6 million man. I had the action figure. You look through the back of his head through his bionic eye. I was looking at my Nokia flip phone at the time. I was like, this is pretty small. And that's in fact who I called. I called Nokia. And they said, well, we call the camera module people in China. And so this is how you begin these things. It's very small, it's very challenging. We in fact use analog technology. It does visual dropouts, which is the visual language of all video from the future, including Princess Leia asking for Obi-Wan's help or whatever you want.
The future is analog.
Yeah.
Since the initial prototype, Rob and his engineers have gone through several upgrades. He now has one eye that glows red when it films, and another camera eye that looks a bit more normal.
I get calls from and emails from moms whose kid has just lost an eye because it's some sort of fun thing to show a kid this maniac running around on videos and glowing red eye cameras and stuff. It's fun for them to look at that.
They're now working on ways to transfer the technology to other people's prosthetic eyes.
We're doing 3D scans of those now. And then that creates a space that you can take into software to map on the technology that we're increasingly able to reproduce. Some people golf. I make fake eye cameras and, you know, film things with it.
Activate eyeborg. Now.
Right, that's the eye upgraded. Now let's do the rest of the body. Here's Dave Lee at MIT in Boston.
MIT's Media Lab is home to some of the most innovative tech research in the world. But there's one room here that I find particularly fascinating. The mission of this lab is probably one of the most important goals of our time. They're trying to essentially eradicate disability. They want to make it so that if you lose a limb, it won't have any impact on your quality of life. and they're making incredible progress.
So we work on everything from creating new motors and designs for ankles and knees and artificial joints, all the way to, marrying these biomechatronic devices with the human body through novel neural interfacing methods.
Evidence of this work can be seen with people like Ryan Cannon. Complications after a broken leg left him needing an amputation. What's special about his new robotic leg is that it's doing something the human body can do instinctively, but is extremely complex to engineer.
The motor is able to work in such a way that simulates a real biological ankle joint. The Biome uses onboard sensors to infer whether the leg is, for example, in the air or on the ground, and perform actions that, to the person, feel much more like real walking than they would get from a passive prosthesis.
For amputees like Ryan, such innovations are life-changing.
I can move in a more rhythmic, symmetrical way. And being able to move in that manner allows me to walk at a faster pace for a longer distance and to do more activities during the day. This is not relying just on straight physics and mechanical design. It's relying on computing power.
Not all of the research here is about solving disability. This exoskeleton project is about augmenting humans. It allows the body to use much less energy when running or walking.
It improves your ability to walk by 25%. So what that means is if you were to walk 100 miles, it would only feel to you like you walked 75. We're able to do that today, right? And those are devices that I would expect to see rolling out commercially in the next several years.
And we're already beginning to see this kind of technology deployed into the real world. US retail chain Lowe's is experimenting with kitting out its staff with exoskeletons designed in Virginia, which could give their employees more stamina at work. With this in mind, the lab at MIT is now looking to the next huge question. How close are we to the point where people might actually want these kind of prosthetics instead of their real limbs?
I definitely think that we are entering an age in which the line between biological systems and synthetic systems is going to be very much blurred.
But what might be some of the drawbacks of having these additions to the human body?
As there's widespread uptake, that they might only be available to people who have the financial ability to pay for them.
Welcome to the Week in Tech. It was the week a group of disgruntled Twitter users began suing President Donald Trump for blocking them on Twitter. Facebook announced it's trialling embedded advertising in its Messenger app. Yay, that'll go down well with users. And step aside, sigh, Wiz Khalifa, featuring Charlie Puth's See You Again, has taken the coveted crown of most watched YouTube clip. All about it when I see you again. It's been viewed a staggering, which is 2.9 billion times. Billionaire Elon Musk launched the new all-electric Tesla Model 3. With a price tag of $35,000, it's supposed to be more affordable than Tesla's previous efforts, which have cost up to $100,000. Rival electric automobile company Faraday Future has scrapped its plans to build a $1 billion factory in the US state of Nevada. This leaves a big question mark over next year's launch of the company's FF91 car. No, it's not a digital version of the Ministry of Silly Walks, but Google's DeepMind artificial intelligence attempting to learn how to walk. So far, the research is being conducted in virtual environments, but it could one day help robots learn how to navigate in complex or unfamiliar spaces. And finally, a former NASA scientist built a supersized Super Soaker, which can fire a jet of water at 272 miles an hour. Thing is, it's so big, at least you'll see him coming.
It says beards. NASA, it says fashion, style, outfit. That's you. Sometimes it's not that easy to put into words what you want to search for online, and that's why companies are working on ways of us being able to take a simple picture and then search using that image. Pinterest is a place all about images and ideas. They've had a form of visual search for a couple of years now, allowing you to focus in on a particular object within a picture. Through a combination of image recognition and the data points attached to that image, including the hundreds of thousands of boards it may have been pinned to, it could select similar images. This January, they upped their game though, launching Pinterest Lens, a way of being able to search through a photo with no other data attached. And from that search term, it aims to come up with similar objects and related ideas. There we go, we've got a picture, and something is emerging. It says shoes. Right, those are definitely shoes, but they don't exactly resemble mine. A black shoe with blue laces, some men's shoes. So how does it actually do this?
So there are two parts to visual search. The first is computer vision, which is a way of translating the information coming in through the camera into words. And the second is the data set, and the data set is the most important. And so with Pinterest Lens, when you point your camera at something in the real world, the computer inside the phone translates that image into text, and then it takes the text and it takes the image and runs a search against all 100 billion pins on Pinterest to find the ones that seem the most relevant.
Okay, it knows it's a lemon, that's definitely a good start. Now if we scroll down, okay, I think you scroll through it and some of the results make sense, which is sort of like when you search with words, because often you search then and a lot of the things don't make sense, and some do. And having come up with those words, I've got a series of recipes that contain lemons. So we've got a lemon drizzle cake, a lemon polenta cake. We've now got some artwork of lemons. It's a lot better than it did on my boots, and that's probably because this is a very simple image to recognise and understand. Pinterest Lens is also powering Vision, the image search function in Samsung's Bixby, which is currently only available on S8 phones in the US and Korea.
And so today we are announcing a new initiative called Google Lens.
Google Lens is also due for release soon. The company says it'll be a new way of the computer being able to see and even act on its surroundings whilst you're talking to your Google Assistant. Also working in this space is a chatbot called Glamix, which is a way of photographing any item that you like, sending it to them via Facebook Messenger and receiving a response that should tell you where you can buy a similar item. So let's give this a go on my boots to start with. It works with pictures found on Instagram or your phone, eventually allowing you to narrow down results based on price brackets, brands and retailers. Okay, this isn't a bad start. The bot uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and what it calls content-based image recognition to search without the need for tags. As well as shopping for individual items, it aims to be able to help recreate a whole look. Making clicking through to items so easy is of course amazing for retailers, but also if you're lacking in inspiration. So if someone passes you by and they're wearing something you really like, you need to be quick. Got it. Having spent a while testing both, the results were sometimes surprisingly accurate and other times kind of questionable. But it is early days, and the more this sort of technology is used, the more data it collects and the more reliable the results become. That's underwear.
Well, that explains the weird birthday present that Lara bought me. Now, earlier we looked at human beings' attempts to become more robotic, but there's a whole lot of research that's attempting to make robots more human. It's not actually taking place at a robot art school like this, but it's nice to think it might be, isn't it? There is a long way to go in robotics. Just picking up all those weirdly shaped everyday objects is still an enormous challenge, requiring a robot to recognise a given object and to decide how exactly to pick it up. But a team at Berkeley says that DexNet here is the most effective picker-upper ever seen. We're not playing with Lego, it's being taught and building up a huge database of 3D objects by its masters. When something new comes along, it uses its 3D sensor to compare it to this list. It then uses its neural network to figure out the best way to grasp it, and it is said to get it right nearly all the time. The springy legs of this creature were 3D printed at UC San Diego. They're designed to be able to more easily traverse difficult environments, such as disaster areas. And as we know, even walking on flat surfaces is still an issue for most robots. Ouch. Well, I say ouch, but of course these things don't feel pain. That said, there are those of us who are asking whether even feelings might one day be part of a robot's mind.
At the simplest level, it makes sense. Robots are pretty expensive. You don't want them to run willy-nilly into fire and acid and toxic substances. But at a more complex level, we're looking ahead to a time when robots might interact with us on a more personal level as companion robots, for the elderly, for those who are sick or in pain, and perhaps maybe they need to understand the similar sort of experience and perhaps develop something like what we call empathy.
Pain is not just about us saying ouch, there's an emotional element to this as well, isn't there? I get quite upset when I get hurt. So are we actually talking about programming some kind of emotions into artificial intelligence?
Well, we don't really understand what emotions are in human beings. Like you say, you might assume there's some sort of phenomena that occurs around incidents like pain. So hypothetically, if we developed systems that worked like pain, might emotion develop off the back of that as well?
And there are those robots that do look so lifelike, the Boston Dynamics Big Dog and the walking robots. We actually feel quite sorry for them when they fall over or even when we see them being kicked.
Absolutely. When those videos were released online, the reaction was like, oh no, you're bullying them, don't hurt them. But they don't, at this stage, have that technology at all. There's no suggestion they do feel pain, but the human reaction is what I'm really interested in.
And so is that going to inform how we behave towards robots in the future? Is that where you're looking at applying our sympathies?
Yeah, I mean, I think the science fiction model of a human-like entity is probably not all that realistic. There may be more kind of cute models we've seen already of robots that sort of pull on our heartstrings in a more childlike way. And there's those that suggest that we shouldn't have anything that looks human-like at all, because it's disingenuous, it's cheating, and it's tricking us into treating them like they're human beings or other beings.
Dr. Singler thinks that appearing to feel pain may make us treat robots with a bit more respect. Of course, what many people are worried about is how much respect the robots will have for us and, most of all, our jobs. Last week, Caterpillar invested several million in this Australian automated building company. Now, robots can build houses at the rate of 1,000 bricks an hour. Ambition in the area is huge, and for the first time out of the lab, ETH in Switzerland is working on much more ambitious structures, like this undulating wall, which has been largely built by robots.
Now, an increasingly robotic workforce raises a number of issues, and along with the worry of what jobs will actually be left to us in the future, there is another one. Fewer workers earning a wage means fewer workers paying income tax on their earnings, and that means less money going into the economy. Now, some tech brains, including that of Bill Gates, are calling for a robot tax to counter that. And Kat Hawkins went to find out how that might work.
Almost everyone in the world who works pays tax on the money they earn. But at this restaurant in San Francisco, there are no waiting staff, and robots plate the food. That work is currently not taxable, and politician Jane Kim is now looking into how this is changing the city's economy.
So what we're seeing is that through automation that you can hire less people in order to deliver products maybe quicker and more affordably. But it's one of the questions that we have. It's true, this is really convenient, but at what cost?
And it's not just restaurants. This picture is now seen across the city, from hotels and hospitals to the latest addition to the autonomous family, self-driving cars. And policymakers have noticed, every time a robot takes a human job, potential tax revenue is being lost.
The research is showing us that jobs are going to get lost over the next 10 years. And if before the Great Depression we could have predicted what would come afterwards, if government could have prepared for the job loss that occurred, wouldn't we do that? And that is the level at which we are looking at potentially over the next 10 years in terms of job loss for this country.
Estimations of how many jobs will be wiped out vary widely from study to study, but a recent report especially has stuck in Jane's mind. It's estimated that robots will replace 37% of jobs in the United States by the early 2030s.
So the biggest concern is mass job displacement, lack of true, meaningful, high-wage work. We're already seeing a decrease of that in San Francisco, where we have the fastest growing income gap in the country, and a wealth gap that is akin to the country of Rwanda, according to our own Human Services Agency data. And so we have a shrinking middle class, and we have this growing imminent threat that many of our meaningful working class and even middle class jobs may go away to robots and automation.
At Cafe X, again, a human worker has been replaced by a robot.
An Americano with milk served by a robot.
Now, the human has a different role, advising on coffee beans and showing customers how to use the tablet to operate the robot barista. The owner is not sure about the idea of a tax on the replacement.
I guess I find it a little odd because what robots are supposed to do is to increase productivity, and that means it allows a shift in labor from doing highly repetitive, low productivity tasks to more useful things. It's not about eliminating people. Actually, we have quite a big team. So in order to have this machine operate, there has to be a lot of engineers on software, hardware, and manufacturing to build something like this.
Jobs like this require training, and that's what Supervisor Kim wants a tax to help bring about.
If you are a childcare worker or you're an in-home support services worker working with a senior or an individual with disability, you often work 3 or 4 hours a day and you make minimum wage. So one of the ideas was, why not tax robots and invest in these poverty jobs and make them truly living wage careers for people?
This would mean a robot tax potentially subsidising low-paying but essential jobs so that the human employees would earn a living wage. Currently, many people are working but not earning enough to live, leading several politicians around the world to float the idea of a universal basic income. This would be expensive for governments, and Supervisor Kim is suggesting an automation tax could be a solution.
If there's one thing that San Francisco's known for, it's leading the conversation on technology and innovation. But as harder and harder questions are asked about automation and what this really means for people's jobs, it seems appropriate that this city, which has added so much to the problem, is also grappling with what could be the solution.
But the rise of robotic workers is playing out on a global scale, and San Francisco is not the only place trying to lead the conversation. In the EU, a proposal to tax robots was voted down earlier in the year, and one of the commissioners who did so says robots will create more jobs, not reduce them.
They are worried because they say robots, they will take their jobs. But I believe in progress. Progress always created more jobs than progress used to destroy. Train is moving and speed is high. And now this is up to us to be on that train or to stay and to wave to leaving train.
Concerns about automation replacing human jobs have been felt since the Industrial Revolution, and more recently workers in the manufacturing industry have seen jobs disappear as automation takes hold. And as the issue of a robot tax begins to spread further, a fundamental question still needs to be answered. What even is automation?
In context of robots, of course, automation is much broader, and we have to find this definition. They gave this definition more than 100 years ago.
Politicians can no longer ignore the robots creeping into the workplace. And while many of the big questions are still being thrashed out, it's clear that the issue of robot workers is becoming more and more of a political one.
Yeah, really interesting issues, aren't they? That was Kat Hawkins, and that's it for this week. You can follow us on Twitter at BBC Click throughout the week and like us on Facebook too. That's it for now though. Thanks for watching, and we will see you soon.